Everyone's in on the Great Reset. Well, almost everyone. There's one guy who's got the power to do something to stop it, and you know exactly where I'm going. And they made a mistake. They tried to get Trump on their side, so they invited Donald Trump to Davos, I think a couple of times. But in January, when Donald Trump, I think, really began to see the beast that he was up against, he went to Davos, to the World Economic Forum, and he stuck a mega finger in their eye.
We're committed to conserving the majesty of God's creation and the natural beauty of our world. But to embrace the possibilities of tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of the apocalypse. These alarmists always demand the same thing: absolute power to dominate, transform, and control every aspect of our lives. We will never let radical socialists destroy our economy, wreck our country.
2 days after Donald Trump gave that speech, the 89-year-old leftist weirdo billionaire George Soros made an emergency intervention where, at Davos, once again, warning that the U.S. 2020 election will determine the, quote, fate of the whole world. Now, in the context of Davos, take a look at this one more time. This is a month after Donald Trump addressed Davos and stuck the MAGA finger in their face. Here's what Francis, the Vatican, and Jeffrey Sachs had to say in response.
And it is a dangerous country right now. It will be absolutely dangerous if Trump wins re-election. Trump wins re-election. Trump wins re-election.
Francis invited this guy to the Amazon Synod as an honored guest and advisor. He's also Bernie Sanders' advisor. What's he doing in the Vatican? Why is this guy who's a promoter for socialist, out and out socialist, Bernie Sanders, what's he doing advising the Pope? Why does he have entree to the Vatican, friends? Sachs supports abortion and contraception, but that's not a problem for the Vatican. For the Vatican, for Pope Francis, and for his friends at the UN, Donald Trump is the problem, obviously, friends.
Clearly, I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world, but I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020.
Do you get it? Do you see why there's so much hate for Trump? Because with all of his faults, again, he's the capitalist. He's not the globalist. He never will be one of them, which is why he pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement. Donald Trump pulled the United States out of the World Health Organization. That's Bill Gates and company. And now he's threatening to pull the United States out of the World Trade Organization. People say, yeah, well, Donald Trump got married twice. He's a bad guy. Really? He's right in the face of the demons on this, friends. Nobody ever said he was a saint. He's knocking the sacred cows of the United Nations down all over the world right now.
The General Assembly routinely votes 185 against the United States on almost everything right now.
And you remember, speaking of the United Nations, in November of 2019, again, right before COVID landed, Trump went to the UN, on the floor of the General Assembly, and he declared war on globalism.
Wise leaders always put the good of their own people and their own country first. The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots.
And shortly after the speech at the UN, Donald Trump delivered, what do you think happened? The coronavirus was unleashed on the world, and Trump's booming U.S. economy went on life support. Do you think that was an accident? So when they tell all of us to stay home, wear your mask so grandma doesn't get sick, please understand what's really going on here. They don't care about your grandmother. They don't care about old people, these people. They don't care about babies. They want them aborted so that they can save the common home. Abort babies, millions of them all over the world. They don't care about babies. They don't care about old people. In fact, if you want to save your grandma, tell the globalists to stay the hell away from her. You remember how some of them, like Cuomo and characters like this, were running COVID recovering patients through nursing homes? That's how much they care about grandma. And the name of the game now is to bring the United States economy to its knees, get it out of the way, so that everyone will want the Great Reset. Make the new normal so intolerably abnormal that even you and I, maybe, at some point in the near future, will be begging for the vaccines because we'll be driven crazy by that point. Begging for whatever else is going to keep us safe according to our jailers and our handlers and our zookeepers. You see? That's what they want. That's why they keep using this term, new normal. You know what we do to fight back? Go to work. Go back to school. If you're healthy, take off the mask. And for heaven's sake, go back to church and pray that Trump wins in November. That's what the reset was all. That's what the Russia hoax was all about. That's what the impeachment hoax was all about. Don't you see? For 4 years, I've been trying to stop this man because if he strengthens America, if he makes it great again, if he brings the economy back again, the reset won't happen. The New World Order is going to be set way back. Who knows when they're going to have another COVID opportunity like this one again, and they know it. So ask yourselves why they hate this man. These folks, these men, they hate God. They hate the unborn. They hate the traditional family. They hate you. And they hate Donald Trump, whose political opponents, by the way, right now are knocking statues of saints to the ground. They're beating up cops, and they're burning flags. You say you don't like Trump. I'm sorry, friends, but who cares? That doesn't really matter anymore. What you think of Trump's personality or his tweets. Look at the big picture. The choice is simple, friends. Stand with America right now, or fall with the New World Order in the not-so-distant future. There's no other choice. I'm Michael Matt for Remnant TV, and we'll see you next week.
Oxford outlaw Matt Reardon returns to Oxford after nearly 3 years to investigate, document, and ultimately vindicate himself. Matt Reardon was unlawfully arrested and illegally confined on May 26, 2017, until July 6, when he was coerced under extreme stress to plea out to a crime he never committed and couldn't possibly have committed in order to see and ultimately get his daughter back into his life. To add insult to injury, in what seemed like an unreal and unimaginable nightmare, a mandatory part of his involuntary plea involved being banished from the city and county for the term of his probation, 5 years, and signing a covenant to not sue the sheriff's department, the city, the county, any officers involved, any city or county elected official, or any city or county employee. They thought they had every angle tied up. One big problem for them. Actually, two. First, Matt got off probation at halftime just 2.5 years. The second, being the county opening the door, giving him every legitimate reason to legally bypass the covenant to not sue when even more corruption started to surface at some of the highest levels, including the county and sheriff's department, refusing to comply with a Public Records Freedom of Information Act request after the sheriff's department admitted in the last batch of documents requested that Deputy Jared Bundren had received a mystery phone call on May 24, 2017, just 2 days before Reardon was ambushed on the square in Oxford, Mississippi, and arrested by 4 sheriff's investigators, including Bundren. Not long into his discovery phase, he realizes that there is much more involvement in this plot. The FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office refused to get involved and have refused to look at any evidence. Maybe that's because they played a big part in this scandal even happening in the first place. It became increasingly evident when the FBI completely refused to comply with a public records request to produce an investigative report called a 302, which would have been generated from a sit-down meeting Reardon had with 2 agents on May 25, 2017. Reardon took the advisement of an assistant U.S. attorney and sat down with the 2 agents at the local field branch office in Oxford, Mississippi on May 25th, 2017. It is during this meeting where Reardon shows proof of a death threat being made on him and further proving Reardon's innocence in the all-out attack on Reardon and his rights the very next day. It is during this meeting also that Reardon discusses how he purchased an AR-15 for self-defense on May 20th, 2017, and he also discussed how his First Amendment rights were brutally attacked due to a cheap shot injunction taken out by the soon-to-be mayor-elect and her husband, essentially barring him from addressing City Hall on the day of the election, June 6, 2017, which he was already listed on the published agenda for. Since that time, the FBI has sat back taking a silent approach, even making reference to the fact that they could not locate the 302 investigative report, which would accurately show everything, along with any surveillance gathered from that meeting. In trying to combat trickle-down corruption, which he names as one of the biggest threats to society, Oxford outlaw Matt Reardon bravely continues to get closer and closer to the fire as he finds more and more government involvement and pushback from the same ones that plotted to frame him, silence him, get rid of him, and ultimately destroy his life back in 2017. It's a race against the clock, and Matt is a man on a mission in an all-out war on corruption to reclaim his rights and his life, which were so brutally destroyed by the careless, selfish, and shockingly corrupt acts of this local government and the ones who assisted in helping to cover everything up.
What's going on, everybody? I don't really hang out on this profile much anymore. I really don't. For those that get on here, if you haven't seen me a lot on this profile lately, it's because, quite frankly, I don't really get on it much anymore. And that's the truth. Look, Facebook has shut me down for the longest. I mean, I can't sneeze without this profile getting shut down, put on some kind of ban, something. I shouldn't even say the word sneeze. We live in a society of COVID-19, and that shit is reckless, to say the least. Hey, make sure, if you've been looking for me on this profile, you're not going to find me on this profile a lot. Like I said, I've had to create a whole nother profile because of the disgusting liberal tactics to suppress anything and everything that doesn't go against their bullshit agenda. I'd like to start this off by once again reminding everybody that all lives matter. And, prime example of that is Cannon. God bless his soul. Trey Polk and Tyler King. I thought I had you monkeys blocked. Guess not. Yeah, it's a shame what happened to Cannon. It's an atrocity. And the media, no surprise, there's crickets. If it weren't for people grabbing the bull by the horns and really pushing that out there, it would have been swept underneath the table. And it's a shame. It's a damn shame. I'd like to start this off real quickly. I'm going to keep this at about 5 minutes, or try to keep it at about 5 minutes real quickly. So back on July 7th, I filed a post-conviction relief in the trial court and circuit court of Lafayette County that I addressed several things. The main points in particular, that the respondent, which is the state of Mississippi, Lafayette County, was in direct violation of my First, 8th, and 14th Amendment rights. At the time, my coerced guilty plea was given. I only gave it because my crooked-ass attorney at the time, Brennan Horan, for how just it's ridiculous. Had me lie and say that I, even though he knew there was no possible way I could have committed the crime, his whole reason for having me do it was because if I didn't, supposedly the state actors were going to railroad me with a whole heap of other charges in order to get a guaranteed conviction. One way or the other, their goal was to get rid of me, to silence me. And as I've brought up in several live streams, it had multiple end goals in mind to help take the liability off of the Lafayette County Sheriff's Department and the Deputy Sheriff Timmy Pruitt, nearing retirement, made a bad call. You know, I am audio and video recording, Mr. Pruitt.
I don't care. You have a permit to be here.
The First Amendment, actually.
You have a permit to be here.
No.
All right, you gotta leave.
Why is that?
Because you're going to jail if you don't.
I'm going to jail just for standing out here and
That's
holding
right.
the flag.
You're demonstrating.
Arrested me for something that was constitutionally protected activity, for standing on public property, holding the state flag of Mississippi.
Yeah, you have to leave.
Okay, where does that supersede? Let me just. Can I just ask you? Can I ask you a question?
I'm going to ask you one more time to leave. If not, I'm going to kill you to jail for disorderly conduct.
Okay, I'll leave and take this straight to my attorney then. That's you can't threaten me with my First Amendment rights. And simply asking him what his badge number was, because he wasn't wearing his badge. Y'all see that? Hey, what's your badge number, by the way, Deputy Pruitt? No, I'm not. I'm leaving. I was asking you. As a Marine Corps veteran, I'll never change that. That thought process. I signed up. I wrote a blank check to the government for an amount up to and including my life back in 2007, and me standing in solitude by myself, holding the state flag, not causing any problems. But even if I was, getting loud, which I wasn't, freedom of speech, so long as it's not threatening. So I filed this motion for post-conviction relief July 7th that the respondent was in direct violation of my First, 8th, and 14th Amendment rights at the time the coerced guilty plea was given. That the petitioner's guilty plea was involuntary due to a denial of his due process rights as guaranteed under the United States and State of Mississippi constitutions, thus making his plea guilty of violation of the laws of the state of Mississippi. The petitioner received inadequate representation by his legal counsel on record, in which adequate counsel representation likely would have resulted in an outright dismissal of the state's charge. Definitely would have. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because the state alleged on or before May 8th, 2017, I put the Lynches in fear of their life with an AR-15, when I have a bill of sale proving that I did not purchase it until May the 20th. I purchased it May the 20th due to a death threat being on me at the time. Honestly, I'd wanted an AR-15 for quite a while anyways. It just gave me a perfect excuse to go ahead and get one. so that if somebody did have intent on harming me or my family, I was more than enough prepared. That the states refused to comply with a Freedom of Information Act request for information regarding a phone call received on May 24, 2017, which, through the state's own admission on a more recent public records request, ultimately led to the charge being levied against petitioner. A copy of the state's admission to receiving a phone call and it being their allegation upon the information received is attached to as Exhibit C. That there exists additional evidence of material facts not reasonably discovered at the time of involuntary plea was given and not previously presented and heard, which requires vacation of the conviction or sentence in the interest of justice. Spot on. It was exactly in the interest of justice. Spot on. It was exactly what I needed to put in my post-conviction relief. That was assigned to Judge Kent Smith. He's a new circuit court judge. We lost 2 out of the 3 circuit court judges that month. Judge Kelly Luther was the only judge prior to that. I reached out to his office for guidance on the new overwhelming evidence that I had that would prove beyond all reasonable doubt my innocence and also prove the fraud that was conducted on behalf of the state and the county for their intentional framing, as well as the quid pro quo pay for play, I'll say it's pay for play scandal, in order to really, at the end of the day, benefit these 4 parties directly through the conspiring of removing my civil rights. And that's a lawsuit, that's criminal charges to be filed in the future. So, on July 30th, Judge Kelly Luther ruled on my case, even though he was not the judge assigned to my case, because Judge Kent Smith was. Judge Luther issued an order denying relief requested, said the petitioner alleges inter alia the respondent was in direct violation of the petitioner's 1st, 8th, and 14th constitutional rights at the time the plea was given. The petitioner also alleges he received inadequate representation. After reviewing the documents filed by the petitioner, the court finds it plainly appears from the face of the motion and prior proceedings that the petitioner is not entitled to any relief. The court finds the transcript of the plea and sentencing hearing in the petitioner's criminal cause for aggravated stalking, LK 17-295, belies petitioner's claims for relief. Therefore, the court is of the opinion the requested relief is not well taken and is hereby denied. So, here's the problem. The problem, first of all, is that Judge Luther was not even supposed to be on this case. In fact, he was supposed to be recused due to a conflict of interest, due to me reaching out to his office and sending a lengthy email to his court administrator, Kathy Sturdivant, detailing every last bit of the fraud committed by the county, by the sheriff's department, by the Tannehills, by the Lynches. Also the fraud committed on behalf of the FBI, who to this day are still obstructing justice, refusing to cooperate with a FOIA request and producing the 302 from a sit-down meeting May 25th, 2017, in which I detailed out with proof how the Tannehills had used an injunction claiming constitutionally protected activity to ultimately keep me from speaking at City Hall June 6th, which coincidentally was the day that the mayor got elected. And how I purchased an AR-15 on May 20th due to the fact that I had a death threat on my that was issued to me. It was not a, it was not a meeting where I was being accused of any crime. It was a meeting where I was seeking relief due to fraudulent activity conducted by state actors, as well as others conspiring with state actors. The FBI has refused to cooperate in producing that 302, which further goes to prove exactly everything that I've been saying since the beginning. And it's the deny and obstruct tactics of the FBI that match up with that of the Democrats, that any time that goes along with the Sheriff's Department as well. Anytime that they're in the wrong, there's any wrongful conduct, they simply deny, obstruct, and sweep the shit under the table. Problem is, they involve the courts and they involve the government, which in turn they also used a very, very ill-prepared way to try to hang me. And they did it to the wrong one. So, I then filed in response, I filed a motion for rehearing under Mississippi Rule 59 before the Honorable Judge Kent Smith. Comes now the court, Matthew Reardon, your petitioner, plaintiff, and appeals back to this court a motion for rehearing under Mississippi Rule 59 and would state into the court the following facts: that on July 7th, the motion for post-conviction relief was filed with this court, the trial court, asking for this court to vacate and set aside his guilty plea entered on July 7th, 2017 on the following permitted grounds pursuant to Mississippi Code 99-39-5, the Mississippi Uniform Post-Conviction Relief Collateral Act. That the respondent was in direct violation of the petitioner's 1st, 8th, and 14th constitutional rights at the time the plea was given. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, y'all know the reasons for why I filed that. It was the same exact reasons for why I filed the post-conviction relief. It was all 4 of them. Actually, 5. That on July 30th, 2020, Circuit Court Judge Kelly Luther denied petitioner's motion for relief, which was brought with merit, in good timing, and in the correct court and jurisdiction. The petitioner alleges that his post-conviction relief motion was prejudicially denied with biasness and favorability shown to the respondent as the grounds on which post-conviction relief was brought, along with the alleged fraud conducted by the state and Lafayette County, not only warrant, but should in fact be interpreted as prejudicial against the petitioner for refusing to hold an evidentiary hearing on the facts and both the state's willful and obstructionist tactics to hold an obstructionist tactics in refusing to comply with a FOIA public records request for the key evidence the state used to compel its warrant and charge. And 4, that Judge Kelly Luther was made aware of the facts before the PCR was filed, and that there's a conflict of interest in said case, calling for a response and a recusal. I, Matthew Reardon, petitioned this court for an evidentiary hearing of facts pursuant to Rule 59 on this 10th day of August 2020. Okay? I filed that on August 10th. 2 days later, on August 12th, I went ahead and I filed something else. I filed a motion for recusal. Comes now Matthew Reardon, plaintiff, in the above captioned cause, and respectfully moves that the Circuit Court Judge Kelly Luther recuse himself from this case on the following grounds: conflict of interest due to being informed of all fraudulent activity conducted by Lafayette County, Mississippi, in the state of Mississippi on Monday, June 1st, 2020, via email to Court Administrator Kathy Sturdivant, who in turn forwarded detailed emails to Judge Kelly Luther. The plaintiff was passed advice by judge via court administrator that he would need to seek relief via post-conviction relief in order to have said issues heard and addressed by the court. On July 7th, petitioner submitted post-conviction relief to the trial court asking for relief from the court. Judge Kelly Luther prejudicially denied the motion without even allowing an evidentiary hearing to present findings of evidence and proof. It is this reason, along with petitioner's case being assigned to Judge Kent Smith, that petitioner requests immediate emergency relief from this trial court, and petitioner formally asked for a written response from this court as to why Judge Kelly Luther is deciding cases for Judge Kent Smith without holding so much as an evidentiary hearing to examine claims of fraud committed along with the constitutional rights of petitioner being outright destroyed by the state and county officials in an outrageous attempt to coerce a favored outcome and cover it up, which it ultimately wound up doing. Evidence of email correspondence passed along to Judge Luther is attached hereto as Exhibit A. So I found that with the emails proving Judge Luther had reviewed over all the facts outside of a courtroom, and when I was under the impression, and it was put to me that he was recused from the case, and he had a moral and legal obligation to do so because of knowing the facts and not holding an evidentiary hearing and it being assigned to another judge. And so I filed that. I'm waiting on a response to that. I called Judge Kent Smith's office, spoke to his court administrator. She informed me that she was not aware that Judge Luther had decided a case on behalf of Kent Smith, the new circuit court judge. So I will end it with this, okay? And this is the law around everything. This is out of the Mississippi Civil whatever procedures, MCRP. All right, something relied heavily on by the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. Now, Rule 59 is I did not put Rule 59 in these screenshots that I'm reading off of, so bear with me. But here's where ultimately it's too late now. Okay, it's already been done. I don't mind discussing this because it's going to be on a court filing. Once again, come Monday, I've got another motion to make, another explosive motion to make. Okay? And I think that hopefully this is going to nip this problem in the bud once and for all. That Rule 54, judgments. Okay? Rule 54, it's under Chapter 7. Rule C. So I advise you, look up, actually it's the MRCP, the Mississippi Rules of Civil Procedure. Alright? So look up MRCP 54, and when you look at MRCP 54, look at letter C. Judgment. Summarily dismissing a motion for post-conviction relief. When a court summarily dismisses a motion for post-conviction collateral relief under Section 9939, 11 of the Mississippi Code, the order must identify the files, records, transcript, and correspondence the court relied on and direct that certified copies of these documents be placed in the motion cause numbers file. Okay? Here's the big problem for the county. The county, I have screenshots of 3 different days leading up to me filing the post-conviction relief, or leading up to me filing the motion for recusal, showing in the system where Judge Kent Smith was the assigned judge on my cause number, on my case. It's ironic, though, that on August 12th, when I filed the motion for recusal of Judge Kelly Luther, it's ironic that right after that in the system, it is changed from Judge Kent Smith to Judge Kelly Luther on this new case. Circuit Court is controversially making changes in the system to suit their needs. There has been literally, I mean, it is crazy. This entire time, there has been clerical errors made by the state of Mississippi and by Circuit Court, which they should be well briefed on by now, and especially after making 1, 2, 3 clerical errors, and I haven't made the first one yet, and I'm not represented by an attorney. Isn't that something? I file the right motions, I quote the right case law, I pull the right facts, and I use the right evidence, which is the evidence, the truth. And you have Circuit Court changing everything in the system as soon as a motion for recusal against a Circuit Court judge is filed where knowingly he shouldn't have been on the case. Once again, more fraud on behalf of the county. And to make matters even worse, on August 12th, right after they changed the case to add Judge Luther, to swap Judge Luther out on my case, because I had claimed that Judge Kent Smith was assigned to it, it is at that time that they also publish the transcript of what happened July 6th, the plea out, where I pled out to a crime I never committed, July 6, 2017. They published that to the case back in 2017. One little problem, okay? It's a different cause number. See, the motion for post-conviction relief, which is this very cause that I was petitioning the court for, is L20-317, and they filed it under the 2017 criminal matter, not the civil matter here. Well, according to Mississippi rules for civil procedure, in order for the judge to summarily deny my request for post-conviction relief, they had to provide the transcript as well as anything else under this cause number, not the old one. Therefore, I'm going to look into my ability at this point, due to the obstructionist tactics, still no compliance by the county, more incompliance by a judge that shouldn't be assigned, and to whatever remedies I can, whether it be a emergency injunction against the county, whether it be